The galaxy learned something was wrong the moment the human envoy didn't look up. The grand war chamber of the Trellic Compact was designed to intimidate. Its ceiling arched like the ribcage of a dead god, etched with glowing sigils of conquest. Fleet projections hovered midair, thousands of warships represented by crimson spears aimed at a small blue dot labeled SOL. Delegates from 47 species watched in collective anticipation as the High Strategos finished reading the declaration. By unanimous vote, the Strategos thundered, mandibles flaring. The Compact announces total war against the Human Confederation. All negotiations are hereby terminated. Silence fell. Heavy. Ceremonial. Perfect. Across the chamber, Ambassador Elias Rook turned a page of his newspaper. The sound, CRRK, was painfully loud. Several delegates blinked. One of the smaller avian species tilted its head so far it nearly fell off its perch. The Strategos stared, convinced for a moment that its translation implant had malfunctioned. Human envoy, it said slowly. You have heard our declaration. Rook didn't answer right away. He scanned an article, sighed, and folded the paper slightly to smooth the crease. Only then did he glance up, eyes tired rather than afraid. Yes, he said. Terrible business. That was it. No panic. No outrage. No dramatic defiance. Just mild disappointment, like someone hearing the bakery was out of their favorite bread. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Is he ill? Whispered the Kesh diplomat. Perhaps humans express terror differently, another suggested. The Strategos slammed a clawed limb onto the dais. This is not a joke. Your species stands alone. Our fleets will arrive at your borders within one standard cycle. Rook nodded absently. That'll be the third time this year, then. That did it. The chamber erupted. Third time? Impossible. His species has no formal alliances. Rook raised a hand, not in surrender, but in the universal gesture of someone asking for a moment to finish reading. He tapped the paper. Sorry. Just this part here. You're going to want to see this. He stood and, to the horror of several security officials, walked forward without waiting for permission. He placed the newspaper on the central holotable. The system automatically scanned and translated it. Local Human News, Morning Edition. Traffic delays expected near Mars shipyards due to fleet mobilization exercise. The Strategos stared at the headline. What is this? Tuesday, Rook said. We do drills on Tuesdays. The Compact's military observers exchanged uneasy looks. You are claiming, the Strategos said carefully, that your forces are mobilizing, for training, during a declared war? Rook shrugged. We'd already scheduled it. A junior aide whispered frantically into the Strategos' comm node. Data streamed across its retinal display. Human fleet movements. Industrial output spikes. Civilian evacuation protocols, inactive. They're not panicking, the aide hissed. They're rerouting cargo ships. As if this were routine. The Strategos straightened. Human. You were summoned here to witness the consequences of defiance. Rook smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. No, actually. I was summoned here last month to renegotiate trade tariffs on helium-3. You postponed the meeting. 3 times. He tapped the newspaper again. And now you've declared total war because your border patrol seized a human freighter that legally crossed an unmapped corridor you hadn't updated in 6 decades. The Strategos bristled. You violated sovereign space. You forgot it existed. Rook corrected. We sent 12 notices. Certified. The chamber fell quiet again, but this time the silence was uncertain. You are still outmatched, the Strategos said, though its voice lacked earlier confidence. Your worlds are few. Your fleet's untested against the Compact. Rook finally folded the newspaper and tucked it under his arm. That's a common misunderstanding. We don't build fleets to test them. He turned, gesturing toward the star map. You see war as escalation. We see it as paperwork. That earned a few nervous laughs, quickly stifled. The unusual thing about humans, Rook continued, is that when diplomacy fails, we don't get emotional. We get organized. He paused, then added, almost apologetically, and you've just created a scheduling problem. The strategos leaned forward. Explain. Rook checked his wrist display. Well, we were supposed to finish demilitarizing our outer colonies next quarter. Now we'll have to reverse that. Also, my sister's wedding might need to be moved. Depends on how fast your fleets travel. A stunned delegate finally spoke. You are not afraid? Rook considered the question seriously. Of war? Of course. War is expensive. Messy. Bad for headlines. He glanced down at the newspaper again. But afraid of you? He looked up, meeting the strategos' many eyes. No. Security alerts began to chirp across the chamber as fresh data poured in. Human ships altering course, defense grids activating, ancient orbital platforms waking from decades of dormancy. Rook turned toward the exit. If you'll excuse me, I have a call with Earth. They'll want to know negotiations are officially off. The strategos watched him go, a cold realization forming as the doors sealed behind the unarmed, unbothered human envoy. Total war had been announced. And the humans had treated it like bad news on page 3. The first thing the compact noticed was that humans didn't respond to total war with speeches, they responded with logistics. By the time the strategos convened the Emergency Military Council, half a cycle after the declaration, human trade routes had already shifted. Cargo vessels once labeled civilian now carried innocuous tags like agricultural equipment and emergency infrastructure, while quietly diverting through systems the compact had long considered irrelevant. Old jump corridors lit up with traffic like arteries reopening after centuries of dormancy. Explain this, the strategos demanded as holograms flickered to life. Our scouts report no massing fleets at your borders. No evacuation of population centers. No morale broadcasts. What is your strategy? Elias Rook appeared via hololink this time, seated somewhere unmistakably human, a cluttered room, half-lit, a mug of something steaming at his elbow. He looked more tired than before, but still irritatingly calm. Honestly? Rook said. We're arguing internally. The strategos stiffened. About surrender terms? Rook blinked. No. About budget reallocations. Several admirals exchanged confused glances. You see, Rook continued, tapping his console, total war means I can finally get authorization for projects that kept getting stalled in committee. Threat assessment protocols loosen up. Experimental divisions get greenlit. Frankly, some people are thrilled. A massive avian admiral flared its wings. You are exploiting war for bureaucratic convenience? Absolutely, Rook said. You should try it sometime. That was when the first complication hit. A compact forward fleet, confident and ceremonial, entered the Heliod Drift, an uninhabited region marked safe for centuries. Within minutes, 3 capital ships vanished from sensors. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. The strategos roared. Human trickery! Rook frowned. That's odd. That area should only have automated traffic regulators. The holomap updated again. A small annotation appeared beside the drift. Status: Temporary Construction Zone, Human Infrastructure Authority. The strategos stared. You turned a battlefield into a construction site? Rook winced. Ah. That explains it. We're installing deep space mass stabilizers. For freight efficiency. If your ships jumped in without updated clearance codes, they probably got redirected. Redirected where? Demanded an admiral. Rook checked another screen. Somewhere inconvenient but survivable. We don't like unnecessary casualties. The room fell into uneasy silence. Human, the strategos said slowly. You are underestimating the compact's resolve. I don't think so, Rook replied. I think you're overestimating how much of our attention you currently have. As if summoned by the words, alarms flared again. Reports streamed in, human media outlets covering the war announcement with mild interest, sandwiched between weather updates and a sports controversy. No panic. No mass enlistment drives. Recruitment numbers rose anyway. "Why are your civilians volunteering?" a diplomat asked. "You have not even issued a call to arms." Rook smiled thinly. "We didn't need to. Humans get stubborn when told what they can't do." Then came the second complication. A compact cyberwarfare division launched a comprehensive assault on human networks. It was elegant, devastating, on paper. In practice, the attack bogged down almost immediately, trapped in layers of redundant systems, decoy architectures, and something labeled legacy code, do not touch. "What is legacy code?" an analyst whispered. Rook coughed. "Old stuff. Written by people who assumed everything would break eventually." The cyber attack didn't fail. It got lost. Signals chased one another in loops designed decades earlier by paranoid engineers who never expected to be proven right. The strategos felt something unfamiliar creep into its thoughts. Not fear, not yet, but irritation. "You are improvising," it accused. "None of this is formal doctrine." Rook leaned back. "Correct. Doctrine is what you use when the enemy plays by the same rules. We prefer habits." Another fleet report came in. Human ships, small, modular, unassuming, were appearing near compact supply depots, not attacking, just adjusting things. Fuel reserves recalculated. Traffic schedules optimized. Entire depots running more efficiently than before. "They're improving our logistics," an aide whispered, horrified. Rook raised a finger. "Temporarily. You'll want to undo that later." The strategos finally understood the shape of the problem. Humans weren't meeting force with force. They were flooding the conflict with absurdity, paperwork, infrastructure, unintended efficiencies, turning war into a sprawling mess no one had trained for. "You mock us," the strategos said. "No," Rook replied gently. "We're adapting. This is what we do when the plan falls apart." He stood, gathering his things. "Which reminds me, I should warn you. Section 3 of our contingency framework activates once you commit your primary fleets." The strategos narrowed its eyes. "And what is Section 3? Rook paused, then smiled in a way that finally felt dangerous. "That's when we stop multitasking." The moment the compact committed its primary fleets, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath, and then reality lurched sideways. No grand announcement marked the shift. No triumphant broadcast. Just a quiet change in how human ships behaved. Traffic lanes once cluttered with civilian-looking vessels went dark. Construction markers vanished. The annoying, efficient little optimization routines infesting compact logistics nodes abruptly stopped responding. Across the hollow map, human signatures condensed. "That's impossible," an admiral whispered as the projections recalibrated. "They weren't there a moment ago." They had been. Just not like this. Human ships no longer traveled in fleets. They traveled in swarms, small units forming, dissolving, and reforming around gravitational features the compact had always considered hazards rather than tools. Asteroid fields became staging grounds. Nebulae turned into sensor-blind corridors. Even the background radiation of ancient supernova remnants was suddenly busy. The strategos felt a flicker of something dangerously close to unease. "Human envoy," it demanded over the open channel. "Explain this deployment." Elias Rook appeared again, this time standing. The background behind him was different, brighter, cleaner, unmistakably military. He looked focused now, the faint humor stripped away like a discarded coat. "Section 3, he said simply. "We stop pretending this is theoretical." The first real clash happened near the Caros Line, a region the compact had fortified for centuries. Defensive platforms activated in perfect synchronization. Energy grids flared. Kill zones locked in. Then nothing happened. No human fleet charged forward. No barrage answered the opening salvo. Instead, the platforms began reporting contradictory data. Range calculations disagreed with visual confirmation. Firing solutions decayed milliseconds after computation, as if the universe itself refused to hold still long enough to be shot. "What is wrong with our targeting?" an officer shouted. "Nothing," came the reply. "Everything is shifting." Human ships slip through gaps that should not exist, exploiting relativistic microvariances their engineers had catalogued for decades. They weren't faster. They weren't stronger. They were earlier, arriving where the compact would aim rather than where it was aiming now. The first platform died without ever firing a shot, its core gently overloaded by a drone no larger than a shuttle, piloted by an algorithm that treated defensive fire like bad weather, something to be routed around. "Why don't they finish us?" an aide hissed as disabled platforms drifted powerless. Rook's voice carried across the channel, calm and clear. "Because destruction isn't the objective yet." "Then what is?" the strategos demanded. Rook didn't answer immediately. The delay stretched, thick with tension. "Demonstration," he said at last. The compact responded the only way it knew how, with overwhelming force. Entire battle groups surged forward, banners blazing, commanders invoking ancient doctrines of honor and annihilation. Energy lances cut through space. Missiles screamed. Human ships died. That much was undeniable. They were fragile compared to compact behemoths. They burned, shattered, vanished into radiation and debris. And still the humans advanced. Not forward, sideways. Around. Through. Where one ship fell, 3 more slipped into the vacuum it left behind, exploiting the momentary chaos in firing patterns. Compact formations, built for symmetry and dominance, found themselves turning constantly, chasing threats that refused to stay threats for long. Then came the moment that broke the illusion of control. A human vessel, unarmed, slow, unmistakably civilian in design, drifted into the heart of a compact formation. It broadcast a single message on all frequencies. "Excuse us. Minor adjustment." Before anyone could respond, the ship detonated, not explosively, but gravitationally. A localized distortion rippled outward, harmless to hulls but catastrophic to formation coherence. Distances became suggestions. Synchronization collapsed. Ships found themselves milliseconds out of alignment, and in space combat, milliseconds were fatal. Human strike units appeared like punctuation marks, precise and unforgiving. "This violates every law of war," the strategos roared. Rook's image flickered, interference crackling around him. "No. It violates your expectations." The compact's greatest weapon, its unity, became its weakness. Commands lagged. Hierarchies slowed response times. Admirals waited for authorization that would never arrive in time. Humans didn't wait. They delegated. Independent captains made decisions on the fly. AI systems negotiated firing lanes among themselves mid-battle. Losses were logged, analyzed, and adapted to in real time. "You're bleeding," an aide whispered to the strategos, staring at casualty projections. "So are they," the strategos snarled. "Yes," Rook agreed quietly. "But we planned for it." The strategos finally understood. Humans hadn't underestimated the cost of war, they had priced it in. Every loss was acceptable if it produced data. Every setback fed the machine. The climactic moment came not with a final shot, but with a transmission. Human code flooded compact channels, not as a virus, but as a proposal. Battle simulations. Predictive outcomes. Timelines showing exactly how the next 72 cycles would unfold if the compact continued. Projected losses climbed. Infrastructure collapse followed. Political fragmentation spiked. "This is coercion," the strategos said, voice low. Rook met its gaze. "No. This is transparency." The firing slowed. Then stopped. Across the battlefield, human ships held position, battered but unbroken, waiting. For the first time in its long existence, the compact faced a truth it had never trained for. It was losing, not to superior force, but to a species that treated war as a solvable problem. The ceasefire didn't arrive with ceremony. It arrived with exhaustion. Across dozens of systems, compact fleets sat in disarray, not destroyed, not defeated in the way their histories understood defeat, but stranded inside a web of predictions they could no longer escape. Every simulation they ran ended the same way: more losses, more fragmentation, more internal dissent. The war had become unwinnable not because the humans were stronger, but because continuing no longer made sense. That realization was more terrifying than annihilation. In the Grand War Chamber, the strategos stood before the same star map where total war had been declared. The crimson spears were gone now, replaced by neutral icons, paused trajectories, unfinished intentions. Elias Rook returned in person. He walked into the chamber unarmed again, carrying the same folded newspaper. It was newer this time. The headline read, "Markets stabilize after brief interstellar incident." The strategos watched him approach, every instinct screaming that this human was more dangerous now than he had been at the start. "You have achieved advantage," the strategos said. "Name your terms." Rook blinked, genuinely surprised. "Terms? You have demonstrated dominance," the strategos insisted. "Territory. Reparations. Submission clauses." Rook sighed and rubbed his eyes. "No. We're not here for that." A ripple of confusion spread through the chamber. "You declared total war," the strategos said. "You crippled our fleets. You humiliated our command structure. And now you claim you want nothing?" "Not nothing," Rook corrected. "Just boring things." He placed the newspaper on the central table, then slid a data slate beside it. "Updated maps. Shared transit protocols. A joint committee to prevent you from accidentally declaring extinction-level conflicts over shipping disputes. And a formal apology to the captain you arrested." The strategos stared. "That is all?" Rook shrugged. "We don't like occupying other people. Too much paperwork." A low, disbelieving sound echoed through the chamber. "You could break us," the strategos said quietly. "Eventually." Rook met its gaze. "Yes. And you could hurt us badly first. That's why this ends now." Silence stretched. Then, slowly, the strategos inclined its massive head. "The compact accepts." The words felt heavier than any surrender. In the cycles that followed, the galaxy recalibrated. Human fleets withdrew, not triumphantly, but efficiently, leaving behind repaired infrastructure, patched logistics nodes, and a mountain of documentation no one else wanted to deal with. Compact officers found their systems running more smoothly than before the war, a bitter reminder of how thoroughly humans had embedded themselves into the conflict without ever claiming ownership. Historians argued endlessly about who had won. Humans didn't bother joining the debate. Elias Rook sat in a quiet office overlooking Earth, finally finishing his coffee. His sister's wedding had been rescheduled after all. The Mars traffic delay article turned out to be more interesting than expected. A junior aide hovered near the door. "Sir," she said, "the Compact has requested guidance on updating their war doctrines." Rook snorted. "Tell them to add a chapter called Check the Paperwork First." She hesitated. "They also asked why humans reacted the way they did." Rook thought about that for a moment. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that humans have spent their entire history dealing with disasters, natural, political, self-inflicted. War is just another problem set." "And the reason you kept reading the news?" she asked. Rook smiled faintly. "Because if the world's still boring enough for headlines about traffic and markets, then civilization's doing fine." Out in the wider galaxy, the phrase total war quietly lost its meaning. Because everyone had learned the same lesson. When humans stop panicking, stop posturing, and start organizing, the fight is already over. And if you enjoyed this HFY story, don't forget to subscribe to the Void Narratives. Because the galaxy is big, humanity is stubborn, and there are always more stories waiting in the dark.